Hello everybody, this is Goose Fox coming at you with two matches here in the buffed FAZZ. These are both going to be quick matches here. This first match is going to be a 650 cost match in the level 2 FAZZ, going to be on Arctic base. And the match following this is going to be a 700 cost match with the level 3 version, where we're going to be on Colony Drop area. So those are the two matches I have to present here for the FAZZ, which was buffed during the October 2024 unit adjustments. And the moment I saw this suit was on the buff list, I knew it was one that I immediately wanted to cover in some form. So that's what I'm trying to do with this video here. This is a suit that I made a video on not too long ago with the 650, kind of talking about it and how it's a support that I still really liked using at the time. Really was nice to get it out, when I did for that video. So really glad to see it get a buff because really just helping me to, play the suit a lot more and especially play the other cost versions as well, as the 600 and 700 cost versions were not versions of the FAZZ I usually used. I usually stuck to the level 2 at 650, that was my go-to. So also gave me a chance to try out those levels as well, but gonna get into the buffs here, and as usual, gonna start off by reading what we have for the unit adjustments here, and then after that, go into my thoughts about some of those specific aspects, and, just kind of talk about some of the things in detail, what they changed about it. So for the FAZZ here, we're going to start off with the unit specs. The high-speed movement was increased from 150 to 180. For your part slots, your close-range slots were increased from 4 to 6, mid parts were increased from 14 to 17, and your long parts were increased from 20 to 21. Moving to some of your skills now, the unit skill damage control level 1 was adjusted to level 2, and for the level 2 version of this suit, the level 2 was upgraded to level 3. And I assume that applies to the level 3 version of the FAZZ as well, it also getting the level 2 upgraded. But actually, I probably already had it. They kind of changed the way that they labeled some of the buffs on here, so they kind of changed their format a little, so kind of still getting used to that while reading through them. But carrying on here, we do have the unit skill, large shoulder weaponry special cushioning, level 2 was adjusted to level 3. The unit skill, special leg buffer level 1 was adjusted to level 2, and this was adjusted to level 3 for both the level 2 and level 3 versions. And for the level 3 unit specifically, the skill thruster output increase level 2 has been given. So that's everything for the specs here. Now we're going to move on to the weapons that they changed. And the first one is going to be your main ranged weapon, the FAZZ double barrel beam rifle. And for this, the overheat time was shortened from 15 seconds to 12 seconds, so a longer reload for that. Next we have our first sub-weapon, the shoulder 6-tube missile launcher. For this, the power was increased from 150 to 250, and the projectile speed has been increased. And finally, for sub-weapons, we have the rear 18-tube missile launcher. And for this, the power was increased from 240 to 300. And for a lot of those I named with the damage increases and some of the skills, it does apply to the upper levels as well. So, really have those buffs going around for all the levels of the FAZZ here, which actually kind of surprised me that there aren't too many changes to the suit that seem very level specific. I feel like that's been a thing in a lot of the prior unit adjustments I covered. A lot of the buffs just tended to be really specific to certain costs of the suit here, but looking at the FAZZ, like looking at its reference data, it does seem like it needed a lot of help across the board, so not really surprised to see that a lot of these changes are sort of universal for this suit. But yeah, that's everything we have for the buff list for the FAZZ here. Lots of really good stuff here, and I've actually been really enjoying the changes that they have done for this suit. The first thing that I really want to talk about is going to be that increase to your high-speed movement, and that's going to be for when you are boosting. And hey, kind of shot off on that Gundam Delta Kai there. But going back to what I was talking about, high-speed movements. Yeah, they increased the high-speed movement from 150 to 180. And let me just say, when I'm saying that you can feel the difference, you can feel the difference. This suit moves a lot faster now when boosting, which is very understandable. And yeah, like this is honestly just the biggest, I think, buff that this suit has, because now it makes it a lot easier to not only keep up with your teammates but also try to avoid enemies as well. You'll see it here that when I was boosting earlier away from this, I think that's the Horiru Ra2, I think is that what that one's called? When I was boosting earlier, I was actually able to keep a pretty good distance while using the missiles to try and get a stun. And especially being on Arctic Base 2 at the beginning, usually Arctic Base is that map, like if you're in a support, you're usually pretty left behind by your teammates. I didn't have an issue with really that many of the matches I played on Arctic Base using the FAZZ. I was pretty much able to easily keep up with my team, which is just really good for the FAZZ because you are a very big unit, which is just a nicer way of saying you're an easier target for everybody to aim at you. So being able to have that extra bit of maneuverability, that's, high speed movement, really does make a huge difference for this suit. Let's see, some of the other things too. The thruster output increase level 2 for the level 3, that's also good. Really good for 700 costs, which is where the level 3 version is at. Really, the mobility upgrades, I think a lot of those just feel as nice as they do, because 600 through 650 at this point is a cost, they are all costs that are really just full with a bunch of high-speed, units. There are a lot of units at those costs that can just zoom around the map quite easily. And given how the FAZZ is, I feel like it having that extra bit of mobility is just pretty understandable, because I feel like the one weapon you really want to be stationary with, well, really because you have to be stationary with it, is the mega cannon that you have on the, over the shoulder there. That's the only stop-to-fire weapon. So, I feel like with how long it takes to charge that, and also how long it takes to have that recover, this really does feel like a unit you want to be a bit more mobile with when it comes to using, especially your missiles. The missiles on this suit are really good, and that's another thing I want to touch up on too. Not really just necessarily the buff, but kind of the missiles in general. Because the missiles, both the missiles are good for getting stuns. Usually it's the smaller missiles that I've heard them be referred to as your not emergency, but your defense missiles. Those are the ones you typically want to use when it comes to trying to get a stun on somebody who's pursuing you. But honestly, I feel like both of the missiles are really good when it comes to stun accumulation. So I feel like you can kind of use either one and get away with it. But now that they did that increased damage, there's even more use to use the missiles, and you really want to use them because at these costs, ballistic resistance really isn't a focus when it comes to builds like that, so you're going to be doing some pretty hefty damage. And before I continue on here, let's see how the, stats for this first 650 match went. And second place with 4 kills and 2 loss, second place in damage, and first in assists, so not too bad for the first match there. And that's going to take us to the next match coming up here. That's going to be on Colony Drop area at 700. This match, I was really proud of this one, because at 700, I was even at quick matches where I know people don't really play as seriously, and you don't have a lot of the typical super meta teams running around. Sometimes, it kind of depends. I was still pretty worried about how my performance on this map would be. It actually went fairly well, and as you can see, still that same thing I mentioned with the mobility, like on Arctic Base. I'm really just able to keep up with my teammates here. Again, really the strongest aspect I feel of this buff really is that increase to the high speed movement, just being able to keep up with the team a whole lot better than the suit originally was able to. But, yeah, going back to what I was saying about the missiles, yeah, you really want to use these missiles because you can use both of them while boosting. And again, they did increase the damage for both of them, so you're going to be doing much more damage against enemies than you normally would. The Vulcan guns are also pretty well. The Vulcans are not part of the buff at all, but there's just something I want to mention. Vulcans are also really good on this suit, and, yeah, the Hyper Mega Cannon too, again, not something that's on the buff, but the cannon as well, really like the charge cannon for this. I know one of the things that's always been requested for it is to be able to charge it while moving. Personally, I don't think the FAZZ really needs a charging while moving Mega Beam Cannon, as much as it would be appreciated. It could be just the way that I've built it. I've built all of my FAZZs to be around beam charge time and overheat recovery. So maybe it's just because I'm able to use the cannon way more with the build that I have on it. But again, it's more of a personal thing. As much as it would be cool to have it, I don't think it's something the FAZZ necessarily needs for it to be successful, especially with, as I'm mentioning, with a lot of the buffs that they gave it already. It already feels like a huge improvement from, what they kind of gave it. Maybe having a charging Mega Beam would be good with that increased mobility. Again, personally, I don't think it's something that the FAZZ necessarily needs as of now. Maybe in the future, if it starts falling behind again, maybe that would be a nice buff to give it. But as of now, as I said, not really something that I think is too necessary for it. But, yeah, looking at the rest of the buffs here, you do have those special cushioning and the buffers for some of the parts of the mobile suit. Again, a really good thing because, as I mentioned, this suit is pretty bulky. So just having that little extra bit of defense in some places is definitely handy depending on what mobile suits you are fighting against. So yeah, really do appreciate that. That's another thing with my FAZZ as well. I have built this more, built all of them towards also being very tanky as well. So yeah, really just tried to beef up some of the aspects here with the defense and the beam resistance, not beam resistance. Well, I think beam resistance, I do have that up here, but beam recovery and charge time. I'll have my builds at the bottom in the description for the video. I've actually been doing that for a lot of my videos now, having what builds I use in the description. I never made an official announcement about that, so if you want to see what builds I'm using and maybe try to use them as a basis for some of your builds, you're just curious about what builds I'm using, I do have those down below. But yeah, really just a lot of the buffs that they gave the FAZZ here, I think really make it good in its current state. Much better than even then. Like, I was one of the people who kind of thought like the FAZZ really isn't that bad in the state that it was in before this, but again, man, it's really just that mobility update, the upgrade to the high-speed movements. That alone just kind of has me singing a different tune about it. Like, yeah, like where was this all my life? Yeah, really do appreciate what they changed about it. I really wish I could have gotten more matches with this in rated rooms, because obviously, like with rated and quick matches, people are going to be playing a lot differently depending on, like the situation, like the maps, the situation. People are going to play more seriously. Like, I don't think in a rated room we'd have this double team of Zeku Type 1s that we have right now. That's actually another suit that got buffed as part of this unit adjustment as well. But yeah, I don't think that's something we would have seen in a rated room. Rated would probably have a lot of the current 700 meta with like Z Gundams flying around. So that probably would be the biggest difference between both rooms. I don't know what it would be for 650. I know for the 650 match we did have some lower cost units, I think we had a Jan Fjavin on our team. So again, another aspect where if it was rated, we probably would see some different teams, and that probably would have made things go a lot differently than what would be from quick matches. So really speaking more from a quick match perspective, I do think the FAZZ is a really good pick. For rated, I have used it rated at 600 at its native cost. I did a few matches with those. They weren't really too impressive. That's why I don't have any of those to show for this video here. They were pretty standard matches. What really the biggest thing that really gave me a hassle during those matches was the new Gundam Delta Kai ground type. That was probably the only thing that really gave me any real hassle, I would say. So even for rated, I think it does have the potential to be a viable pick. I just don't want to confirm it too much now because I need to play more, at least 700 matches at rated. 650, I feel like that I can say at 650 would still be pretty good. 700 though, I'm not really too sure in the rated department how well this suit would perform, but yeah, at this point, kind of just going on here about random stuff with the rooms and whatnot. Overall, really in summary, I do really like the FAZZ buff. I think it's a really good buff for this suit. The highlights, of course, being the mobility that I keep bringing up, and those resistances and the extra damage to the missiles as well. All of that is also really good. So yeah, really glad to see this suit get some attention, because the mobility is honestly not something that I don't think I would have ever thought up of. Because, I mean, the FAZZ is a very bulky suit, so it having a slower mobility, it did make sense in my head. Like, yeah, it's going to be a much slower unit, it doesn't hover, it walks normally, it has all these weapons and armor attached to it, but that extra high-speed movement just makes such a difference that maybe even if you don't like the FAZZ, or maybe it's a suit you have but haven't played, I do think for that alone it is worth giving this unit a chance. Really just, maybe playing a couple matches with it at some different costs. If you want to do quick matches as well, like I did for these videos, kind of do something like that if you maybe just want to have a safer place to test it without affecting your rating. I think that would be, like, this is a really good opportunity to really maybe see the FAZZ in a new light. So, yeah, that's all I really have to say for this video. Gonna let the rest of this match play out before I do my closing. Looks like I'm gonna get a last second kill there on the Banshee Norn with the Vulcans. So yeah, let's see how this 700 cost match went for the FAZZ, and like I said, do my little outro and whatnot. And I didn't get anyone on the board for this match, but I was able to beat my rival. And second place with 5 kills and 1 loss. Second place in individual, so again, like, not too shabby for 700, especially like I mentioned at the beginning of that second round. I really was not expecting to do as well as I did. I was admittedly nervous with that one, but it ended up turning out really well. So, yeah, that's all I have to say for the buffed FAZZ here. Again, just really good update, worth giving this suit a shot if you haven't already. And, well, yeah, that's all I have to say for this video, so comment down below what you think about the buffed FAZZ. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and with that, I will see you all in the next one. Later.